Welcome to Week 10 of the South Carolina Football Preview Show. We're here at the Village Idiot Pizza and Pub in their Five Points location. Also have a location in Forest Acres area on Forest Drive. Come down and get a slice of pizza, maybe drown your sorrows about the Gamecocks, who are coming off of 4 straight SEC losses, another fourth quarter collapse. Although they've had a bye week to sort of get it all out of their system, shake it off, as Steve Spurrier said. You might wonder, I guess I should address first why David and I look so shaggy. David has actually promised not to shave again until South Carolina gets a defensive shutout. So he'll look like one of those Duck Dynasty guys, probably.
Pretty much, I'm gonna have to get a nice long knife to cut all this off.
By this time next year. Actually, we're participating in a Movember fundraiser for prostate cancer awareness, competing against Clemson Riders. So you need to give money for a chance. You want to beat Clemson yourself. You got control of it. Donate money to a Movember page. I believe Team Mach 3.
Yeah.
Mach 3 free. Mach 3 free. Movember.com. Mach 3 free. Donate to David or I, not to those Clemson guys, and make a difference. We would appreciate that. The Gamecocks play the Gators. Steve Spurrier goes back to the swamp for like the 100th time.
Sure.
I don't know that that's a story. The story clearly is South Carolina badly needs a win. What does Florida do that's going to make that tough?
Well, I tell you, the Gators are looking awful tough, Josh. First few weeks of the season, everybody was thinking South Carolina might not be looking sharp, but boy, they'll go down there and beat those guys because Florida just wasn't having a very good year. And that's changed a little bit. And, the Gators, they're playing pretty well right now. They just beat up on Georgia in a game at Jacksonville where they did anything they wanted to do, and then they outlasted Vanderbilt, and they got right back on top. I mean, as crazy as it seems, Josh, the Gators mathematically still have a chance to win the SEC East,
isn't it?
which that's just nuts. But Will Muschamp, that's probably the popular opinion. After the Missouri game, everybody thought that guy's fired. There's no way he's coming back. Well, they beat up on Georgia. And now, if they do win the East, can you actually fire the SEC East champ? I don't
Probably
think you can. But a long time between here and there. We'll see about Will Muschamp. Obviously, Steve Spurrier likes him, thinks he's a good friend, and thinks that he should not be fired no matter what's going to happen. Looking at what Florida's going to want to do, they're going to want to run the ball.
Yes.
They ran for over 400 yards against Georgia. Matt Jones and Kelvin Taylor had close to 200 yards each, and they're going to want to do that against a USC defensive front that has not stopped much of anybody.
Right.
They can't tackle well, they can't get in their gaps well, and if South Carolina's going to win this game, they're going to have to hope to do what they did against Georgia. Stack 8 in the box and dare the quarterback, in this case Treon Harris, to beat you with his arm.
Right.
Now, they only attempted 6 passes against Georgia, completed 3. But against Vanderbilt, he had to open it up a little bit. I think he threw 21, maybe completed 13, 15. I'm not sure the numbers there.
Okay, numbers.
Yeah, I mean, Treon Harris is not a guy that's going to overwhelm you, at least not yet. He's still kind of learning on the fly. But the one thing he'll do is take care of the ball, which is what Jeff Driscoll, his predecessor, did not do. Treon Harris has fumbled once. He's thrown 1 interception, but he has not been the just walking, fumbling, intercepting mess that poor Jeff Driscoll was. Right. So South Carolina's just going to have to try to stop that run, get a few stops, and force Treon Harris to make some plays with his arm. Florida on defense, they've had a great season all year.
Yeah.
It's just when they've had collapses, it's because they've been on the field for 45 minutes because their offense was so lousy. South Carolina is going to have to try to do what it has done all year and put up points, put up numbers, and keep these guys off the field. And who knows how easy that's going to be because Florida's very good defensively. But the one thing South Carolina can do, Josh, Auburn was only allowing 333 yards per game when South Carolina went in there and started throwing the ball all around Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah.
Florida's averaging 334 yards per game. So who knows, maybe South Carolina could go in there and do what they did against Auburn. Speaking of all this Gators, have you ever had fried gator tail?
I actually have.
Well, it's good. It tastes like chicken. I don't know if they have the toppings here at Village Idiot Pizza, but come on down and get you, the special anyway, or come on down and get a full pie. They got every topping you could want, except maybe fried gator. But Josh, we've talked all about Florida. We've talked a lot about South Carolina, but let's talk about them again. What's South Carolina got to do to win this game?
Play better defense. I mean, this is it comes down to that. The offense, like you say, is moving the ball. The problem, the first problem you have if you're South Carolina is you're going to the swamp. You've only beat Florida 7 times in your history, only 1 time in the swamp. And in the last 12 games, South Carolina is one since 1950. South Carolina is 1-11 in the Swamp against the Gators, and a lot of those have just been ugly, including
56-6
the unexplainable, like 44-11 the last trip down there, when an offense that was a good offense just fell apart. Special teams just turning the ball over, just an ugly game. As embarrassed as I have seen Steve Spurrier until this season came along.
Yeah.
That was just a bad game. So the Swamp has not been kind to the Gamecocks. They need to go down there and they need to play well offensively, because like I said, they're going to have to score some points. The offense is ranked 5th in the SEC, has scored a ton of points. Something that has troubled me this week is something that's, Brandon Walsh just came right out and said it. He said, if we score every drive, we should be okay. Now, that's a tough way to live, and that's a tough way to think.
It's a lot of pressure.
When you start thinking that way, I feel like you press and you maybe get yourself out of rhythm. You don't have to score every drive. I mean, you may have to score 75% of them, but you don't have to score every one. The defense has got to hold on. For me, if you're South Carolina, the most troubling statistic is 5.9, which is how many yards per carry the Gamecocks are giving up. Only one team in the country has given up more. Florida ran the ball 60 of 66 snaps against Georgia. I mean, it might be 65 of 66 if South Carolina can't tackle somebody. I see no reason for the Gators, until proven otherwise, to put the ball in Treon Harris's hand. Hand it to those running backs and let them run downhill. Make South Carolina do something it hasn't done, it hasn't proven it can do this year, which is stop the run. Gamecocks have got to win here on Saturday or at Clemson to be bowl eligible. I mean, this is a program that has, gone from will we make a bowl to a bowl has just been a given. Well, it's not a given at the moment. Got to beat the Gators to make, or the Tigers, but you would love to have it taken care of.
Go ahead and get it knocked out of the way now.
You would love to have it taken care of, and if you're going to beat the Gators, you've got to tackle their running backs. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it's sort of a manhood check at this point for the South Carolina defense on Saturday in the Swamp.
Now it's time for our Village Idiot mailbag. We appreciate you guys chiming into our live chats and to social media. Roy writes in and says, I wonder if Steve Spurrier skipping the Tennessee postgame was more to do with avoiding the inevitable questions about the future of the defensive coaches. Well, that's a good comment, Roy. Really, I don't think it was. He has talked about the future of his staff and of himself several times before the Tennessee game and after the Tennessee game. He's obviously not going to make any decisions or any declarations now, but he said previously that everybody is safe. Now, we'll see how much that rings true after the season.
Right, sure.
But after the Tennessee game, obviously it was the wrong thing to do to just walk out without taking questions. Should have stayed and answered at least a few. Personally, I think he was just so stunned that they again blew a game in that fashion that he just had to get somewhere and clear his head, because he knows he's going to have to make some tough decisions at the end of the year, and he was just kind of overwhelmed. That doesn't excuse it. Should have stayed in and answered a few questions, but he's already explained a lot of that. I don't think it had anything to do with getting asked the same questions about the future of his staff.
No, I agree with you, and I agree completely. He should have stayed and answered questions. That's part of his job description. But I also thought him walking out after 42 seconds kind of summed up the story of that game. I mean, that told the story as well as anything. What do you say after
just
it happens
again
a third time? That's been kind of the story of this season. They stunned, nothing. Stunned silence. It kind of sums up this season as good as any. So run the ball, kill the clock says, if we had those D-line recruits that we lost to academics, what is our record? Considering that you are, just a play or two away in those 3 fourth quarter collapses from making a difference, maybe 3 games better, maybe none better, but maybe 3 games better. At the time it didn't seem like a big deal, but they did. They lost 4 of 5 defensive line recruits to academics, wiped out that class, guys that they thought would certainly be difference makers down the road, if not right away. And given the way this defensive line is playing, probably right away. I mean, that is either really bad luck or you just took some chances on academic guys that you shouldn't have taken all at one time. I mean, you can afford with a superstar here and there. You take chances on those guys. Everybody does it. But if 4/5, 80% of your defensive line recruiting class is a major academic risk, you might need to cover yourself some way other than that.
Oh, sure. JJ says that there's only 2 directions to go from here. The team just collapses over the next 3 games, or it rises to the occasion to get the job done and save face. JJ, I couldn't agree more. You know, they know what's staring them at the face. They've been bowl eligible every year under Steve Spurrier, and they're going to have to win 2 of these final 3 to get there again. I mean, they made it very hard on themselves by losing these games at home that they shouldn't have lost, losing the game to Kentucky that they shouldn't have lost, but the season isn't over. So they just tried to regroup in this bye week and say, season's not over, there's still 3 games left.
Yeah, I think, a lot is left to be written, a quarter of the season essentially. If you beat Florida, you're going to beat South Alabama and beat Clemson. I think it's a much different story going into the offseason than if you lose to those guys. So, is it as cut and dry? Is everybody's going to feel great at the end of the year because they turned it around, or everybody's going to be terrible? Not necessarily. I mean, you win 1, you lose 2, they're close. Who knows? But I think that there is a lot of this story left to be written, and we should pay attention, because I think these last 3 games will be important to Steve Spurrier, and I certainly think they're important to the South Carolina football
And one
program.
thing that we'll touch on during Clemson week, it's not advisable to be going to Clemson needing that win to get you bowl eligible. Now, they've done it before. They did it in 94.
Right.
They did it in 96. They've also not done it before, specifically in 2002 and 2003,
Right.
where that win would have made them 6-6 instead of 5-7. But we'll get into that during Clemson week. And now it's time for our final segment of the preview show, our guest picker. Today we're bringing in Eric Isley, an employee of the Village Inn. As you can see, a very loyal Gator. Eric, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well, thank you.
No, good, man. Well, Florida's kind of turned it around these past couple of weeks. They played really great in a game at Georgia after you thought the season was gone. They beat Vanderbilt. They still got a chance to win the East, and really it might save Will Muschamp's job and, get you guys a pretty good season. So, South Carolina going down to Florida, what do you think's going to happen?
I think Gamecocks will come out strong after their bye week. The Gators all year, their defense have kind of been weak in the first quarter, and then they've kind of got things together the rest of the game. So I think Gamecocks will come out and score in the first half, but not much the rest of the game. And I think Florida will win 34-20.
34-20. I got to agree with Eric. Just the way it's going to go, I think that Florida's going to run the ball down South Carolina's throat, and they can't stop it. And USC will score its points. And I'm not sure how this is going to go at the end of the game, but either USC is going to have a chance at a game-winning drive and not get it done, or they're going to give up a game-winning drive, which is something we've seen far too much. I'm going to go with South Carolina 28, Florida 30.
Well, this is a rejuvenated Florida team. I mean, I kind of counted this as a win in the preseason and for the first half of this season. You thought South Carolina's going to win at Florida. Florida's no good. All of a sudden they are. The line keeps going up. It was at 3.5 at the beginning of the week, 6.5 later on in the week. People like the Gators. People think they're going to beat the Gamecocks. I agree with them and all of these guys here. I don't see any reason to pick South Carolina right now. The running game for Florida is too much of a weapon against a South Carolina defense that just can't stop it. I agree with David. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think South Carolina will find a way. Steve Spurrier will find a way to score some points. Although Florida's defense is really stout, and Dante Fowler can get after Dylan Thompson and could make it a long day. But I think 38-35 Gators, and you're looking at 5 straight SEC losses for Steve Spurrier, something that's never happened to him in a single season. We'll see. And don't forget, Movember.com, Team Mach 3, do not make this be in vain, because nobody is really enjoying this through the month of November. We'll see you at the Swamp Saturday about 10 o'clock, early kickoff. Get some sleep.